Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Vipet Gadadhar, Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Gaura Bhakta, Namakunda Radha Kundi Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Mathura Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to the Sama devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 19, entitled The Appearance of Shukadev Goswami. Text number 21. Sarve Vayam Tavat Iha Asmahe Atha Kalevaram Yavat Aso Vihaya Lokam Param Viraj Askam Vishokam Yasyati Ayam Bhagavata Pradhanaha Sarve Vayam Tavat Ihasmaheta Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokam Param Virajaskam Vishokam Yasyatyayam Bhagavata Pradhanaha Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokam Param Virajaskam Vishokam Yasyatyayam Bhagavata Pradhanaha Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokam Param Virajaskam Vishokam Yasatyayam Bhagavata Pradhana
Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokam Param Virajaskam Vishokam Yasatyayam Bhagavata Pradhana
Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokam Parang Virajaskam Vishokam Yasyat Jayam Bhagavata Pradanaha.
Sarve vayam tavat ihasmahita
Devayam Javarihamahis.
kalevaram yavat asau vihaya lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyastayam bhagavata pradhanaha.
Sarve vayam tavarihas maheta
Amdavarihasmahita.
kalivaram yavadaso vihaya
Yavarasovihaya.
lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyat yam bhagavata pradanaha.
Sarve vayam tavarihas maheta
Devayam Javarihasmahita.
kale varam yavaraso vihaya okam param virajaskam vishokam
Vishokam
yasyat yayam bhagavata pradana.
Asatyayam Bhagavata Pradana Sarve Vayam Tavariham Samhita Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta Kalevaram Yadvat Ashu Vihayaha Kalevaram Yavadaso Vihaya Lokambaram Virajaksham Vishokam Lokambaram Virajaskam Vishokam Yashatyayam Bhagavata Pradanaha Yasatyayam Bhagavata Pradanaha
Sarve vayam tavarihasmaheta
Sarve Vayam Tavarihasmaheta
kalevaram yavadaso vihaya lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyat yayam bhagavata pradhana.
Sarve vayam tavarihas maheta kalevaram yavaraso vihaya lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyati ayam bhagavata pradana.
Are there any devotees online that would like to chant? Sarve, all, Vayam, of us, Tavat, as long as, Iha, at this place, Asmahe, shall stay, Atha, hereafter, Kalevaram, the body, Yavat, so long, Aso, the king, Vihaya, giving up, Lokam, the planet, Param, the supreme, Virajaskam, completely free from mundane contamination, Vishokam, completely freed from all kinds of lamentation, Yasyati, returns, Ayam, this, Bhagavata, devotee, Pradhanaha, the foremost. Translation. We shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination, and all kinds of lamentation. Purport. Beyond the limitation of the material creation, which is compared to the cloud in the sky, there is the Paravyoma, or the spiritual sky, full of planets called Vaikunthas. Such Vaikuntha planets are also differently known as Purushottama Loka, Achyuta Loka, Trivikrama Loka, Rishikesha Loka, Keshava Loka, Aniruddha Loka, Madhava Loka, Pradyumna Loka, Sankarshana Loka, Sridhar Loka, Vasudeva Loka, Ayodhya Loka, Dwaraka Loka, and many other millions of spiritual lokas wherein the personality of Godhead predominates. All the living entities are liberated souls with spiritual bodies as good as that of the Lord. There is no material contamination. Everything there is spiritual, and therefore there is nothing objectively lamentable. They are full of transcendental bliss and are without birth, death, old age, and disease. And amongst the above-mentioned Vaikuntha Lokas, there is one supreme Loka called Goloka Vrindavan, which is the abode of Lord Sri Krishna and his specific associates. Maharaj Parikshit was destined to achieve this particular Loka, and the great rishis assembled there could foresee this. All of them consulted among themselves about the great departure of the great king, and they wanted to see him up to the last moment, because they would no more be able to see such a great devotee of the Lord. When a great devotee of the Lord passes away, there is nothing to be lamented, because the devotee is destined to enter into the kingdom of God. But the sorry plight is that such great devotees leave our sight, and therefore there is every reason to be sorry. As the Lord is rarely to be seen by our present eyes, so also are the great devotees, the great rishis, therefore correctly decided to remain on the spot till the last moment. Sarve vayam tavad ihasmahetha kalevaram yavataso vihaya lokam param virajaskam vishokam yasyatyayam bhagavata pradana. We shall all wait here until the foremost devotee of the Lord, Maharaj Parikshit, returns to the supreme planet, which is completely free from all mundane contamination and all kinds of lamentation. I like this. But the sorry plight is that such great devotees leave our sight, and therefore there is every reason to be sorry. So Maharaj Parikshit was destined to go to the Goloka Vrindavan. That's Krishna's place with the cows and his specific associates. And not all devotees who are perfected go to that supreme abode. There are also perfect living entities, as was described, that are in the other lokas too. The Paravyoma is the spiritual sky beyond this material sky. In that Paravyoma, we see the front of the Bhagavatam. This is the Paravyoma. This is the spiritual sky, and these are all the different planets that are there. And we can see very nicely, there's the supreme abode, Goloka Vrindavan. And some devotees have their residence on their various spiritual planets. So Maharaj Parikshit it was understood by the sages that he was destined for Goloka. So that's very nice that by dint of their devotional service and their
transcendental austerities, the devotees and sages, they may be able to understand our destination. And in one sense, the devotee isn't on the topmost platform, at least, the devotee isn't interested in their destination apart from the opportunity for service. So the pure devotees, following in the footsteps of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they are praying that they don't mind to take birth again and again, wherever it may be, as long as they can have pure devotional service. So that's the fourth verse of the Shikshastakam. What to speak of material opulences, which are simply pleasurable based on some mental concoction. We just decided that a certain set of sense objects are attractive and otherwise, or we've been conditioned. So the prayer is na janam na dhanam na sundarim kavitam va jagadisha kame mama janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktir ahaituki twayi. That I want my pure devotional service unto you, and I don't want anything else. And it's stated that the pure devotees, they also don't mind to go to heaven or hell as long as they can have service. Some devotees pray for the ability to always remember the Lord wherever they may be. Some devotees pray to always chant the Lord's glories wherever they may be. Some devotees say that I just want to meditate on your form wherever I may be. That's that from the Damodar Ashtakam, Muhush Chumbitam Bimba Raktararame. That we see Krishna's beautiful face has been reddened like the bimba fruit due to Mother Yashoda's kisses. What other boon do I want than just to meditate on this form? So they're not interested in any of the circumstantial arrangements in terms of the material situation. And sometimes, though, the devotee does accept this type of liberation. Liberation is a word which more or less has been stolen by the commentators or the unauthorized commentators of the Vedic literatures. But liberation actually has to do with bhakti. That you can't actually be liberated. It's stated, vimukta manina. These persons who are speculators, they think that they're liberated. Vimukta manina. They're just thinking that I become liberated, but they haven't achieved bhakti. They haven't actually achieved the platform of real liberation. So this word has been hijacked by those persons. So they're all obsessed. Mukti kami, right? There's that verse. Akama sarva kamova. Mukti kama. Moksha kami. Like that. Moksha kami. So they're lusting after liberation without the conception of devotional service. So sometimes, though, the devotee may accept a type of liberation which is called, I think it's called Swarloki, something, somebody know? Swarlokya? There's 4 types.
Salokya, Samipya, Sarshti, and Sarupya.
So the devotee may accept the liberation, which is to be on the same planet as the Lord, or to have the same form as the Lord. But they never accept the liberation, which is to become, to merge one with the Lord. And so we can see in our movement, we have the backbone of our movement is this back to Godhead. Prabhupada described that this was the periodical that Prabhupada started to begin his preaching. Of course, there was other things before that, but this back to Godhead, and we should actually desire to go back to Godhead. But this back to Godhead, what is Godhead? Or what is that place, Godhead? That place is the place of devotional service, of pure devotional service. So if back to Godhead also we can understand it means to achieve pure devotional service and to actually bring the atmosphere of pure devotional service to this material realm and bring Goloka Vrindavan, bring Gokula Vrindavan wherever we may go by dint of our being assistants, very fortunate souls to the Bhagavatas, very fortunate souls who have the opportunity to render some meager attempts to please the spiritual master or Srila Prabhupada. So he's bringing Vrindavan everywhere. His books are bringing Vrindavan everywhere because of his devotional attitude. So this was perceivable that Maharaj Parikshit, he was also such a devotee that he already is in that consciousness, therefore he is eligible to receive that destination. And so there's many verses in the Gita which discuss this point. There's many, I just looked at one this morning, Bhagavad Gita chapter 9, I think it's text 25, or yes, 25. Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrin yanti pitri vrataha, bhutani yanti bhuteja, yanti madhyajino pimam. Translation is that those who worship the demigods go to the demigods, or live among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will live among such beings. Those who worship the ancestors will go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. That's how Prabhupada writes it. They will live with me. So Krishna says, you will come live with me if you actually worship me. And earlier in the chapter, not chapter 9, Krishna describes that these devotees like Maharaj Parikshit, what is their qualification? They're Mahatmas. So chapter 9, text 14 describes Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridha vrataha lamasyantascha mam bhaktya nitya yukta upasate. That always chanting my glories, endeavoring with great determination, bowing down before me, these great souls perpetually worship me with devotion. So this is the qualification of one to actually go to that place. And it's stated in the 8th chapter that wherever our mind is at the time of death, then to that state of being that we will attain, that is guaranteed. Yato, no, that's not the one. That Yam Yam Vapi, right? You can chant Yam Yam Vapi Smaram Bhavam Tyajatyante Kalevaram Tam Tam Evaiti Konteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavita. He says, Evaiti, that certainly certainly you will actually get it. So this is the purpose of the Bhagavatam, is that we can absorb our mind in this transcendental narration of the Lord's pastimes and his associates' pastimes, which are as good. There's so many purports in the Bhagavatam where Prabhupada takes an opportunity to describe. Yes?
All the great souls who came to be with Maharaj Pariksha, they didn't consider that they were Brahmanas and that he was a Kshatriya, and therefore in a lower stage. Vaishnava is not considered, according to the Varna and the Ashram system, to be a member of that, because he's in the transcendental position. Lord Chaitanya said, I am not a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi, or Vanaprastha. I'm the servant of the servant of Krishna. That's the identification of a devotee. He doesn't consider himself part of the Varnashram. Of course, he may act in that capacity if he's given that service, like Maharaj Parikshit was given that duty. He was assigned that by his fathers, the Pandavas. They asked him to take over this management of the Jambudvip. For the Jambudvip is a greater earth than our present earth that we know. Jambudvip is 800 million miles, very long distance across. So this is described in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He was given a great responsibility to oversee that, and he took it, even though it was managerial. Another case of Priyavrata, he was a king, but Narad Muni was preaching that he should give it up and just be a saintly person, give up the responsibility, and take sannyas. And he was prepared to do that, but then his father brought Lord Brahma there, and Lord Brahma told him that it was a higher service for him to stay in that position because there was no one else who could do it. And he promised him that you will not become affected by the service, touch with the material energy. Devotional service is beyond the touch of material activities. So as long as one is engaged in his specific duty, responsibility, he'll not be touched by the material world.
So Maharaj Parikshit was always engaged, and we also have that same opportunity. It's also our specific, it's our prerogative, or it's our responsibility, and that's actually our only responsibility, is to just be 100% engaged in the Lord's service, which is doled out or explained or elaborated to us specifically by the Parampara system. I wanted to make just a little point. I really like this line. But the sorry plight is that such great devotees leave our sight, and therefore there is every reason to be sorry. It's a really nice line. That this devotee, he's going back to Godhead, Haribol! Amazing. This person has dedicated their everything, to the service of the Lord. And despite all troubles, the devotee goes on serving, offering obeisances from the core of his heart to the Lord, thinking, actually, I'm just a sinful person. I'm getting the reactions for my past misdeeds. And because of that, the kingdom of God has become the rightful claim for such a devotee. But we are sorry that I won't be able to lay my eyes on such a great devotee. And interestingly enough, is that it's stated that one shouldn't go to see the sadhu, but to hear the sadhu. More or less, I want to serve his vani. I want to serve his mission, his words. I want to serve his instructions. And I do that. First step is just to hear them, receive them submissively, accept them. Oral reception. So that's the ideal. And also the body of the pure devotee is completely transcendental. So to see such a form is very purifying. So we are sad when the devotee leaves, and there's a famous song of transcendental lamentation. Jayanilo Premadana. That's all I know. Somebody have it? Karuna Prachur Eno Prabhu Kota Gela Acharya Thakur. So this is the tune, Jayanilo Premadana. So it says here, he who brought the treasure of divine love and who has filled with compassion and mercy, where has such a personality gone? Specifically, this was written about Srinivas Acharya, at least this first verse, but we can understand that this applies to all the devotees of the Lord. Thank you, Bhakta friend. Would someone like to share something or give a question? Okay, so I thought it was nice that we heard that these different names of these spiritual planets, and it's very wonderful because we are marking the body. Each time we bathe, we remark the body with the tilak markings, which acts as a spiritual armor, and that will carry us swiftly back to such Vaikuntha lokas. There's some cool verses and explanations in the Nectar devotion about marking the body with such names of the Lord. So this last point, the great rishis therefore correctly decided to remain on the spot to the last moment. That when such a devotee is going to leave the world, other devotees, they decide, I will be here for that. And we can see in our movement, Prabhupada called his disciples to be with him in those last days. And when a great Vaishnava in our movement is going to depart, other devotees decide to stay with that devotee and engage in hearing and chanting and remembering the Supreme Lord together and wish a farewell. So we should always know that our death is imminent, Oh, I told I mentioned that somebody has an illness that is in my life, and I said to somebody else that they're dying, and I was after I was embarrassed because I was realizing everybody's dying. You know, everybody's dying. So we should always act that every moment, every loving exchange, it's very special, it's very sweet. And if we put Krishna in the center and we try to serve each other, that we're acting in our real identity. I'm not any of these temporary things. I'm servant of the servant, thousands times removed of Krishna. That's me. That's my affirmation. That's a fact. It's not wishful thinking. It's a fact. I may or may not be acting like that. But when we see that reality, then we can begin to start acting on that. Okay? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the Samba devotees.